Roadworks ahead. I sure hope it does. Roadworks. Nobody likes them, not even the people doing them. So you'd think that logically they'd try and get it over and done with as quick as possible. Well, I think we all know that that's obviously not the case. And as a man who used to work in the industry, I can tell you that we enjoy it just as much as the people that we're holding up do. I think it's safe to say that nobody has a passion for slowing people down and making them late to work. But with that being said, it does pay well, which is why 99% of people who do work in the roadworks industry work in the roadworks industry. So in this video, we'll be going through all aspects of roadworks, from the drivers being held up, to the people holding them up, and of course to the people who are supposed to be working, which 99% of the time aren't actually doing anything. So with that said, it's time for me to stop the waffle, let's get into it. Now the first thing that you'll notice about roadworks is of course the traffic controllers. And your first thought is probably, that looks piss easy. And to be honest, it is. It's a fairly easy job with not much to it. But you see, that's the problem. Now the longest shift that I ever did was 16 hours. But I heard stories from people that I worked with that were there for 24 or more hours and had to sleep on the job. Now I'd say on average I worked about 10 hours a day. But when you're stood on the side of the road in rain, hail or shine for 10 hours straight, sometimes not even with a lunch break, you do start to question what you're doing with your life. But by far the worst part about this job, besides the boredom, is that you sort of have to be concentrating even just a little bit for the entire time that you're working. Because if you muck up and let someone through and they're not supposed to be, and they crash into an excavator, or you cause a head-on collision with the other person up the other end of the street, you're the one in trouble. But anyway, this isn't a video about whinging, this is a video about roadworks. So of course, the main benefit of working as a traffic controller is the pay. But that's simply because half the time, the people that you're protecting while doing the job can't be bothered working themselves, which means that a lot of time you go into overtime, which means double pay. Now don't get me wrong, working as a traffic controller isn't all doom and gloom. While you do get some stinkers stuck out on the stop sign for 12 hours straight with no lunch break, some of the best jobs I had was when a truck would come 4 times a day, you'd have to stop the traffic for maybe 5 minutes at a time, 4 times a day, and then the rest of the time you just got to stand around talking with the person you were working with. But of course that means you have hours and hours of time that you got to fill in somehow. And how do traffic controllers get through the boredom? Well, the answer to that is simple: nicotine and caffeine. Now you've probably noticed that every time you drive past someone holding a stop sign, the other hand's always holding a cigarette or a vape. And that's simply because there's nothing else to do. Some of the people I used to work with were absolute weapons on the cigarettes and could easily go through a brand new vape every day. But me, as a non-smoker, my go-to was caffeine. In my prime, I'd have a coffee in the morning, and then a Dare Iced Coffee Intense Espresso, aka the Dare Iced Coffee Intense Chartos for smoko, and then to wash it down, another one for lunch. Now of course, there's one word to describe that diet: unhealthy. And if you could give a post-game interview to one of the portable f***ing saunas after I blew out my rear main seal from about 700 milligrams of caffeine, close to 100 grams of sugar, and a litre of milk, it'd probably say the same thing. But those things are usually full of shit anyway. Unless of course it tells you to press that subscribe button, then you should listen to what they have to say. But you would have clicked it already, so let's move on. One of my favourite facts about traffic control, especially here in Australia, is that during 2020, when a certain brand of beer or something sent the world into a lockdown and the strip clubs had to shut down, most of the ladies who worked in said venue had to find another job. So they of course went to traffic control. And from what I've heard, the incidences of people speeding through work zones absolutely plummeted during that time. Next up, we have to talk about the people who are actually doing the works on the road. 90% of the time, these people are council workers. And if you didn't know, council workers have a very simple and very effective rule: the 2 on, 8 off rule. Now you may be wondering what the 2 on, 8 off rule is. Well, it's pretty simple to explain. It means 2 people on the tools and 8 people standing around watching, doing nothing. Council workers, like many others, get paid by the hour. So the more hours worked, the more pay they get. And they can either finish the task in 2 hours, or sit down in a chair for 6 and drag a 2-hour task into an 8-hour day. A council worker's day usually starts at about 7 AM, then they spend about 3 hours talking about what they did on the weekend and what work they might do today. Then around 10 AM they start to get to work with 8 people watching while 2 people actually fill the potholes with asphalt. Then after half an hour of work, it's smoko time, which of course goes for half an hour. Then at 11 o'clock it's time for a risk assessment, and then another hour of work, and then 12:30 it's lunchtime. Then of course lunch goes for another hour, and at 1:30 they do another half hour of work, and then it's 2:30 and time to start packing up and getting ready to go home. And that of course is why the roadworks around the corner from your house has been going on for 6 months and nothing's got done. Now don't get me wrong, I'm all for easy money. As Aristotle once said, don't hate the player, hate the game. But when you're in your 10th hour of standing up on the side of the road, getting sunburnt and drenched at the same time because you're in Melbourne, and you look over and see the people that are supposed to be working, eating meat pies, and lying down in the wood chipper, you realise that there's a lot more easier money to be made. But the council workers are laughing because the traffic controllers are the ones that the people getting slowed down by get pissed off at. Despite the fact that it's taken 6 months to fix a 100 cubic millimeter pothole because the guys who are supposed to be doing it have been sitting on their phone in the Portaloo playing Clash Royale for the last 3 months. They're not the ones copping the abuse. All they're copping is trophies. So now I think it's time, before we get into our last topic, which is the drivers being held up by the Roadworks, to have a look at some of the greatest traffic controller versus motorist bust-ups of all time. Starting off with this one. So basically this traffic controller was trying to stop this man who lived on the street, and I'm sure he didn't know that at the time. But having worked in the industry, you'd be surprised at the amount of people that live in the street that you let through and then have to come back the other way because they can't get through the other end, aka the liars. But this chump in his electric car wasn't having a bar of it. Now I can't condone what you're about to see next, but having been in this situation a few times myself, I can sort of understand the perspective of both people. Anyway, Hard Hat Harold decides to smack this cone on the driver's car. The driver, somewhat understandably, gets out of the car and launches a falcon punch, converting Hard Hat Harold into just Harold. Then of course, Wide Brim Wally comes running over to Harold's defense, and to be honest, the fight wasn't really that good. Wide Brim Wally didn't even lose his wide brim, and that was basically it.
Oh, they're on! They're on! Oh! No way!
Melissa, police arrived shortly after and are now investigating.
Now this next one is behind a paywall, and I'm not made of money, so I used ChatGPT to get around the paywall. But the story goes there was a mobile lighting unit shining through the window of this guy's house while he was trying to sleep, which angered him while he was intoxicated. He then verbally abused the traffic controllers, and it says here that he used racial slurs, struck the traffic controller's phone, and then swung a sledgehammer at their work ute. All in all, he was fined $700. Alright, now that you sort of know what goes on behind the scenes, even though it's not a very well kept secret, hopefully you learned a thing or two. Next up, we're going to talk about roadworks from the perspective of the person stuck in the traffic caused by them. There's nothing worse than being late for work, you turn around the corner and see the flashing yellow lights and a sign that says all 5 lanes merge into one. Then when you drive past, you see that absolutely no one is doing anything and there's some idiot sleeping in the wood chipper. But you know what's even worse? Being on time or early to work, then getting caught up in this mess, and now you're late. Now one of the worst examples of this happened earlier in the year in Melbourne, when a steel plate that covers up the joint in this road was blown off, exposing the Grand Canyon underneath. Now this incident that was ruled down to human error, probably because the guy who was supposed to stick it down was in the portable w***ing sauna at the time, caused a truck rollover and a 10-car crash. Now look, nobody's perfect, except maybe me, and we all make mistakes, and this one caused a 4-hour delay for anyone trying to travel along this road. I mean, just look at the news report here. You can see all the traffic banked up for kilometres and kilometres. Now this happened at 4:30am, and it took them till 2:30pm to get all lanes reopened again. Now I get that you can't just snap your fingers and fix this, but Vic Roads, if you're watching, give me and the boys 10 grand for the day. I'll come down with a hammer drill, some Dynabolts and some Sikaflex, and we'll have it sorted in half an hour. Literally all they had to do was clear all the cars off the road, which maybe takes 2 hours, and then bolt the plate back down. But of course, before they even get started, it has to go through 15 levels of management, the accounting team, another risk assessment, and then they got to factor in a 2-hour lunch break and massage parlour stop somewhere. So that's why it takes so long in the first place. And that's pretty much why the average motorist hasn't really got the highest opinion of roadworks and the people who do them. But I think I've got the perfect solution to this. I call it the Balkan method. Instead of mucking around with safety, bollards, traffic controllers, risk assessments, and all that other rubbish, just do what they do on Instagram Reels. Grab someone with an excavator, get him to drive out onto the freeway, and fix the problem within half an hour. The excavator itself will usually be bright yellow, so if a motorist does crash into it, they're the one at fault and should probably get their license reassessed, and it'll save the government a whole bunch of money. Just give Sergey a pack of cigarettes, a couple $1,000 for the day, and a full tank of diesel for the excavator. The way I see it, the quicker the job's done, the safer it is, and the less of a hassle it is in the first place. You could literally just get a bag of asphalt, fill up a pothole, and then give it a once over with a blowtorch, and that's pretty much ready to drive on within half an hour. And that's why I've decided to start my own roadworks company, Farcanel Roadworks and Erections. At Farcanel Constructions and Erections, the first priority is profit, second priority is speed, and of course safety third. So if you guys want to help kickstart this amazing business venture, make sure to press the like and subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy one of these too. So with that all said and done, I've got some clocked back excavators to buy. I'll see all of you guys in the next one.